If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of If You Can Read, You Can Cook. My name is Lewis Morgan, and on today's episode, we will highlight a book entitled The Gap in the Game by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Ben Hardy. Then we will prepare a vegetarian steak sandwich. We'll call it vegetarian steak, but you all will know what I'll be talking about once I do prepare that sandwich. So it is a plant-based sandwich, but I'm gonna call it a vegetarian steak sandwich. So let's just jump right into the book. The Gap in the Game by Dr. Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan. Really good book. A friend of mine gave me this book back in January. Just gave it to me as a gift. Hadn't seen him in years, and he offered this book as a welcome gift, if you will, because I hadn't seen him in so long. Went to his house. He's really like my brother, so I definitely enjoyed the book. I appreciate him for giving it to me, but one of the first books that I read of this year. So I had two takeaways from it. So one will be in the gap, the other will be talking about the game. But being in the gap is being your own best critic. You can't judge yourself to people around you, or what their successes are and what your successes are compared to theirs. You'll always stay in the gap, so to speak, if you always compare yourself to the other person. So you have to be your own best judge for your own success. You cannot allow what other people do to dictate what your success is, because if you always find yourself comparing yourself, then it's just a dead end. So always be your best critic and compare your success to you, nothing else and no one else. And then, all will fall into place as it should. And then in the game, what we do is we don't measure ourselves toward ourselves. We always measure ourselves, again, based on someone else, but we have to measure backwards. So you have to look at, where were you 20 years ago? Where were you 10 years ago in comparison to right now? Yeah, our focus has to be right there. So you have to focus on how far you've come. That is the gain. So to get away from the gap, don't compare yourself with people, and to stay in the game, you always want to measure you versus you, not measure you against someone else, because if someone else has been doing something for years, who am I to step into something and then allow, or look at what they're doing and say, oh, I'm a failure because I'm not doing it as good as they are. So we cannot compare ourselves to others. And when we do that, that's when we stand to gain, and that's when we will reach our highest success, our best success. So, oftentimes what people will do is, a friend will start a business or do something, and then, we'll look at that person and we'll judge that person and say, well, if he can do it or she can do it, then so can I. So that's not where you want to go. That's not how you stay in the game. That's how you stay in the gap. So staying in the game is comparing yourself to you and only you and nothing else, and that's when success will happen. But very good book, The Gap in the Game by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Ben Hardy. Go out, check this book out. Very, very, very good book. Again, first book of the year that I read, and it kind of catapulted the whole year up until right now. So I'm probably about 30-something books in for the year. So really, really good start for the new year. So now we're just gonna go and jump right into the meal. Again, it's gonna be a vegetarian steak sandwich, but I'm gonna use what we call soy curls. So I'll explain that to you in just a moment, but I'm gonna get all the ingredients together. We're gonna show you what they are, and then we're gonna cook the meal after that, and then we'll go from there. Be right back, guys. All right, welcome back, guys. Just wanted to give you a preview of the ingredients. Going to use, again, if you've watched my show, you'll know that this is one of my favorite seasoning. This is the chicken bouillon from Knorr. I use this in just about everything. Got your Worcestershire sauce. I think that's how you pronounce it. I never have been able to pronounce this, but we'll call it Worcestershire sauce. So that's a tongue twister. The smoked paprika is going to give it a smoky flavor, and then it's gonna, darken it a little bit as well. You got your steak seasoning, of course, also your onion powder, garlic powder. One of the things I don't have here is I'm going to use some fresh garlic, and I'm going to cut that garlic up, and I'm going to fry that garlic and put it on top as a garnish. It's going to be a very good finishing touch. Also, I'm going to use provolone cheese. You can use any cheese that you want to. And these are my steak hoagies right here. And of course, I got green pepper, onion, and then colorful peppers as well, orange, yellow, and red. This is the soy curl. This is the star of the show right here. Don't let this fool you. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put all of this in water, and then you put the soy curls in there and you let them rehydrate. Once you let them, you're gonna let them sit in the water and rehydrate. I'm gonna just boil them a little bit and then let them rehydrate in the water, and it's gonna soak up all of these flavors. And then I'm gonna put it in a pan. I'm gonna fry it just like you will any other meat, and then I'm gonna continue to add the broth from what it was marinating in, and then you're gonna cook it until it's kind of dry, meaty texture. This is probably one of the soy products that is the closest to meat that I've ever had. This brand in particular, Butler brand, you can get it on Amazon, and very, very good product. Not really expensive either, and this bag goes a long ways. I could probably do, I don't know, 5 or 6 sandwiches with this. So I'm gonna put all of that together, and probably gonna do some fries or some chips, or probably chips. Just try to make all of my meals as quick as possible. I'm gonna bring it out. After we're done, we're gonna taste it, and we're gonna see how good it is or it isn't. All right, see you guys in a bit.
If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. You can do anything. You can do anything. Always knew I see a day like this. Blue skies, vanilla clouds, sun rays that gliss. Had a vision, I just pray he made it clear. That is a new look, a good book top with a chef's kiss. Took a while to embrace these gifts. Had to find my niche, had to take that risk. Had to work that whisk, had to use my wits to know that this ain't that, and that ain't this. Come on, if you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. You can do anything. You can do anything. cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. You can do anything. You can do anything. Always knew I'd see a day like this. Blue skies, vanilla clouds, sun rays that gliss. Had a vision, I just pray he made it clear that is a new look, a good book top with a chef's kiss. Took a while to embrace these gifts. Had to find my niche, had to take that risk. Had to work that whisk, had to use my wits to know that this ain't that, and that ain't this. Come on, if you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. You can do anything. You can do anything.
Okay, welcome back everyone, and the final taste test. Here is the final product, and to taste it to see how good it is or it ain't. I did decide to just serve it with some potato chips instead. I mean, you can do it with fries, you can do it with anything. You can eat it alone. So it does look like the steak hoagies with the peppers and onions. I fried some garlic, put that on top, and I just did mayo and provolone. So when you watch the video, you'll see that I cooked the soy curls and I kept adding the liquid, and you have to let it dry out so it does get to that meaty texture. You know, we all kind of eat by texture. If the texture is right, then we'll eat it. If it's not, then we won't. And let's see what it tastes like. That's pretty good. Oh man, yeah. That's pretty good. I like the texture of the bun, and then the provolone. All of the flavors just come together. The steak seasoning, you can probably put a steak sauce, or I use Worcestershire sauce, but you can probably put a steak sauce on there, and that would probably take it over the top. But the peppers, the onions, they're cooked. That garlic, that fried garlic. Oh man, this is okay. Yeah, this is fantastic. You could add, what I almost added was some sriracha to the mayo to give it a spicy flavor if you wanted that. It definitely will cure the craving for a steak sandwich. Or when I make this, I definitely want to cook all of the moisture out so it does have that texture of meat. So definitely enjoy that. Again, go out there, cook it. I think you all will enjoy it. And the book from Dan Sullivan and Dr. Ben Hardy, The Gap in the Game, very powerful book. And remember, if you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.
If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. If you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. You can do anything. You can do anything.